Hey guys, welcome back to Mystifying Miracles. I'm Kristen, and every week I search out true stories. And the thing of these stories is they always contain at least one miracle. So they always end on a happy note, even though that some of them may have some of those scary or mysterious elements. If that sounds good to you, follow along and we will get started for our story today. On the outside looking in, Lisa, she looked the same. However, inwardly, Lisa had changed so much, she didn't even recognize herself anymore. And one day, her and her husband were watching TV and they saw an ad come on. In the ad, an athlete talked about his life. He basically had a book he was promoting, and he talked about God and how God had changed his life. He wrote the book, and that how if people order the book, their lives could be changed too. Well, time after time, Lisa and her husband, they kept seeing this same ad play on the TV over and over. So they ended up ordering the book. Well, book was shipped and sent. They got it. And when they got it, it kind of went on the bookshelf. And unfortunately, it was just forgotten for quite a while. Well, time goes by, and eventually Lisa finds herself out of a job again. So this is apparently a recurring thing to where she just can't hold down a job. And this one she lost, and it was due to her anger. I guess she had outbursts, maybe with other coworkers or customers, who knows. But apparently she had an anger issue. And once she was fired, she had a lot of time on her hands. So she was kind of rummaging over the bookshelf and she came across the book again, and she was like, oh yeah. And since she had the time on her hands, she decided, let me read some of this. Now, Lisa says she doesn't remember the title of the exact book it was, because this was years ago, but she remembered just reading about a bunch of different people's stories in that book and how God had changed their lives. And included in the book were lots of Bible scripture and Bible verses. Lisa says that the book kind of stressed the point about a, quote, door, and how Jesus was the door. Well, Lisa never really understood that. She was just kind of like, what is the door? She just, couldn't make the connection what it was trying to say exactly. But as she read the book, Lisa just kind of thought and pondered on her own life, and she knew that her own was just a wreck. I mean, completely miserable. And during this time that she was out of a job as well, Lisa, every night she would go home to her next door neighbor that lived there, and that both of them were drinkers. So they would get drunk pretty much every night. And sometimes also, Lisa, she would get these dark thoughts and ideas in her mind, which made her even more depressed than what she already was. And at times, Lisa had darker thoughts, such as one time she was like, I just want to get in my car and go drive off the bridge. Thoughts like that. Because of her depression. And in addition, her marriage was starting to fail. It was starting to go off the rails. So, I mean, she was in rough shape. And so she'd read a little bit more and more and more of the book, little by little, and that would make her more and more think about her own life and how messed up it was. And she said that as she was reading that, each time more and more, it made her think again about what the door was. At the end of the book, when Lisa had gotten to the last chapter and finished everything, there was a prayer. And Lisa decided one day, I'm going to say that prayer. And Lisa said, you know what? I'm going to get to my knees. So she did. She dropped to her knees. She said that prayer. And that prayer was asking Jesus into her heart. And afterwards, Lisa, she said, I didn't feel any different. So I guess Lisa was assuming that things would change like that. Everything would be great. And afterwards, it really wasn't. And so she was like, But, she just kept living out her day-to-day life, but never getting that concept about the door out of her head. One day she was walking to the mailbox, and all that was in there was just one little measly postcard. And the postcard, it had like a little ad, and it said, quote, "The doors have been opened." And Lisa's looking, there's a picture. It had two big golden gate doors on the postcard. And she said at the bottom, it said, "Front row video." So she's kind of going back in her home. That's all that was in the mailbox. And she's like, weird, so she didn't know what to think of that. When she got back in, her phone was ringing, so she answered it. It happened to be one of her good friends. And her friend was calling her because there happened to be an opening down at the local restaurant. And I guess they were needing servers or, there just was an open position. So she wanted to let Lisa know because she knew Lisa was out of a job. So after chatting a while with her friend, after getting off the phone, Lisa had once again forgotten about the door concept. But she did go drive to that restaurant. She applied for the job. And guess what? The next day, she scored an interview and she got that job. Over time, and I mean, this was little by little, things started to change. Eventually, that neighbor, at this time, let me add too, at this time, she was still going next door and drinking every night with her neighbor. But there came a day where that neighbor actually moved away. Well, after that, Lisa slowly but surely stopped drinking until she was just not drinking it anymore at all. She just didn't care about it or have a passion to do that. Now, her marriage, though, that was still on the rocks. It was failing this whole time. And unfortunately, they were going to get a divorce. And, going through a divorce, that's rough. So she wanted to quit her job, the one that she had gotten. And she was just, she just wanted to pout and be in her depression. She just wasn't feeling right. But that good friend of hers convinced her, don't do that. Don't do anything rash. Stay with your job. It's going to be all right. And so Lisa did, she didn't quit. And the very next day, her job actually offered her like a better position. So they asked her if she wanted to work in the bakery. And she said, why not? So she did, and that was the day she met another coworker by the name of Sean. They immediately began a friendship, and Sean told Lisa all about how his life had changed and how God had come in and totally revamped his life, and he was living much happier than what he used to be. Well, more time goes by, and little by little, Lisa's attitude starts to change. She rarely got mad anymore, and when she did, it wasn't like a big blow up like it used to be. And Lisa stopped blaming other people for her problems. And in addition, she began to see people that she knew or met for who they really were. And she had a passion about that, like, I guess just more compassion in general. Pretty soon, Lisa was interested in going to church, and she noticed a little church down the road from where she lived. It was there that her daughter ended up going with her to church, and her daughter came to know Christ. And then eventually it said Lisa, her sister, and their two daughters, they all attended and they all got baptized at that little church down the street. Sean and Lisa eventually, they had that friendship grow and they began to date. Well, of course, they fell in love. They get married, and now they are house hunting. They'd prayed together for the perfect house to come along that would be, within a good distance from Sean's work, but also close to where Lisa's daughter's house was. And it wasn't too long after that, they actually found a house for rent in Hampton, and it was the perfect amount of distance right between where Sean worked and where Lisa's daughter lived. And Lisa thought about all this as this was going on, and they found the house, she got married, her daughter became saved, and she thought, this is not luck. It just can't be. One morning, Lisa was looking in the mirror again, and she noticed, I don't look the same. I don't look the same at all. But this time it was a positive thing. She thought back to the day, where she had been reading that book in previous years, and the day that she dropped on her knees and she accepted Jesus into her heart. And she thought, that's the day everything started to change in my life for the better. And it was like something popped in her head as she's thinking that. And she said that that's the day that she had, quote, opened the door. Because she did. She opened the door for Christ, right? So, and she said, that's when I started noticing all these little miracles occur along the way up until the present day. I mean, if you think about it, the house, the marriage, she stopped drinking every night with her neighbor. I mean, you got one after the other. And to this day, Lisa stresses the importance of thanking God for everything, for every little thing. She states, don't just look for the giant miracles. She says, but thank God for the small stuff, the things that maybe seem insignificant, but really they aren't. And she says, God does exist and He cares for each person. I agree with that. And man, what a story, because I know I've said this before in a past episode or two about those small miracles. It's not always a big giant thing. Sometimes they're little, but those little ones, man, when you think back to when those little ones occurred, if they hadn't occurred and what could have happened or hadn't happened, you know what I mean? It's amazing. And I don't know how to put that into words, but it's just very cool. I don't know what you guys thought about this story or about miracles in general. Have you had any miracles in your life that you've noticed, whether they're little or big? Let me know in the comments, because I love that. Hearing about people's miracles, something about that just, gosh, what's the word? It just makes me feel more alive. It makes me feel grateful and it makes me happy. So I want to know. Let me know. I don't care if you think it's small, whatever. Let me know in the comments. And also, if there's anything in your life going on and you need somebody to pray for you, let me know. I will be glad to do that. In fact, I love to do that for people. So other than that, guys, if you like these stories, remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys for our next story. Thank you so much.